Hello, my name is Zack Johnson. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, PDGA number 50312. I've been playing for about four and a half years now, and I recently signed with Prodigy 3 to 4 weeks ago. The conversion, I've done pretty good. I was throwing mainly a Nova and putting a Wizard before that, and I've had no problem transitioning immediately. Found a lot of good molds for my bag, and everything's been flying true for me. Today seems to be a pretty windy day, so I'm going to start with my distance drivers where stability is a good choice. I'm going to go and start with the most stable here. I have a pair of D1s, both of them 400 G series plastic. This one here, a little bit domier, always trustworthy in a headwind. I love ripping them on really hard forehands flat. I can always trust it in any type of wind situation. You know what it's going to do every time. It always goes to the right. This one, also similar. This one's a little bit flatter. I seem to carry a little more distance out of this one. Seems to cut through the air a little nicer. In any situation, I could really throw either one, but it just kind of depends on how I feel. The next stability here, we got another D1. This one is a 173, also in the 400G plastic. This one's broken in where I can get a little bit of an S flight out of it now, but it always gives me the dependable fade. I can throw this in a headwind, and it'll give me that nice pop-up flat straight forever and finish hard left, and it's going to do the same thing every time. And I also like this a lot on forehands. It seems to really stretch out the nice forehand on a hard hyzer line for me. It pops up and carries and then always finishes. And yeah, I've had a lot of good shots with this disc. I'm trusting it a lot. This is what I use basically where I used to use my stable destroyers, where you get that distance but yet that stability. This one is my 172 D3. This is the bomber. This is the really overstable, but yet gives you a full flight in a basically a tailwind, or even a little bit of a head or a little bit of a left to right cross. It still gives you that full stability, but still gives you a lot of generates a lot of flight out there in the open air. I really depend on this disc for maximum distance, and I've seen a lot of good shots out of this. This disc is also a 400 G series D1. This is a flippier one though, so this one is giving me more of aggressive turnover, but since it's a D1 it also finishes back, so it's giving me a little more of an S curve than all my other D1s, but I'm getting a lot of distance out of this. This is really stretching it out. I just acquired this about a week ago, so I don't have it fine-tuned in yet, but I've had a lot of great distance shots out of it, and I fully trust it in tailwind for sure. Next would be my big turnover disc. This is the Prodigy D3 in the 400G plastic. This one I can throw for either rollers, for long stretched out rollers, or I can throw these big high air pan shots, and they'll swoop right and hold a long turn, and then just right at the end check up nicely and then finish. Also a great tailwind driver for a hyzer flip up. They really carry out, always dependable, and I always know it's gonna flip right but not roll on me. It's that great stability right here. And this, what I would call a tweener disc for me, this is my 750 X1. This one's not quite as overstable as everybody else has been talking about, but I still love it just as much. I use it quite a bit on forehands where my H1 doesn't quite reach. It stretches it out a little farther. This one is generating just a little bit of flight for me compared to a lot of other people's X1s, but I still can trust it and depend on it in any situation. So this has probably been one of my most thrown discs since I've picked it up. Let's move to fairway drivers here. We'll start with I'll call them hybrids and fairway drivers. I throw them in the same category for myself, but we'll start with the H1. Before I was sponsored by Prodigy, I was all in Nova, and the flat top Firebird was my favorite go-to disc. I used to throw it in every situation. I throw forehands for every approach, if I can. And I was really concerned I wasn't gonna be able to find something to replace that. And then Prodigy came out with their H1 right before I signed. Picked one up and immediately fell in love with it. It's essentially a flat top Firebird, but it's actually slower. So I think it gives you more of that dependability on the upshots. It doesn't really carry out on you, and you can only throw it about, for me, 300. Other than that, it doesn't go any farther. But this thing has been my bread and butter on approach shots. I love it a lot, and can't wait to get one broken in a little bit, see if I can stretch it out a little farther. Next would be my 750 series H2. This is what I would like to call the sweepy hyzer. Very overstable still gives you that dependability, but yet carries out a little bit farther to essentially be a broken in H1. I use this in a lot of situations. They're great for flick flexes. I could put them on a line, they'll hold, and then they'll always check back up and have that stability and that solid finish every time at the end. I've been throwing this a lot, and I use it one step underneath the H1. This is my brand new H3. I like it a lot. It's comparable to a really overstable T-Bird in my opinion. I used to have an F1 in my bag, but this immediately took the place of it. It's a little bit faster, I feel like, and it holds a lot more torque in a wind than the H1, or the F1 does rather. And I like this a lot. I've only probably thrown it a week and a half yet, but I fully depend on it and fully trust it and can trust it in a headwind. Next is my 750 H5, or F5 rather. This to me is like a longer mid-range. Essentially, I can put it on just a touch bit of hyzer and it pops up flat and carries straight for me forever. It's essentially neutral, as in I can throw it on an anhyzer big turnover line and it'll hold, or you can throw it on a sweepy hyzer line in the right conditions. But on a baby hyzer line, it pops up flat and finishes straight. I would use this in a situation where I need a mid-range, but maybe there's a low ceiling and you need a little more penetration. This is the disc for it. I throw it on just a touch of hyzer, like I said, pops up, carries out on me, and finishes straight. Doesn't really try to fade off the fairway, you know, if you have a nice tunnel shot. Next would be my F7. I use this on extreme pop hyzer flats where you have a real tricky line, or these big old turnover pan shots that you need to just hold and finish out. Or I use it a lot on rollers. I throw a lot of rollers being from St. Louis. For some reason, some of the courses around there dictate rollers. So this has taken a direct replacement for what I used to throw from a Nova as a Sidewinder. Essentially flies the same, but a little more on the stable side. So they're actually stretching out a little longer for me on the rollers. And lastly, we'll move to the mid-ranges here. Well, not lastly, we still have putters. But for starters, this is a M2. It's like M3, M2 combo, but essentially it's the M2. This for me is my stable mid-range. I can trust it in a headwind. I can throw it as hard as I can in a headwind. It's going to go dead straight. It's not really going to flip over on me. It's not going to, you know, fade out on me. It just goes straight and finishes. In a no-wind situation, this is the perfect hyzer disc for me. I can throw it hard and flat. It goes out and then finishes with a nice hyzer. Very dependable mid-range. I throw this a lot on upshots, and I'm starting to work it into a forehand. I just now got around to being able to start forehanding mid-ranges with the new Prodigy molds. This is also a combo M3, M2, but this one is a little bit straighter. So this is my dead straight one. In a headwind, I can generate just a touch bit of turn, and it'll still hold and not roll over on me. But in no-wind situations, I throw this as hard as I can, and it just goes straight and finishes straight. It's a really dependable disc. And then to finish off my mid-ranges here, I have a beautiful M4. This is the perfect effortless disc is what I like to call it. You just throw it out there nice and easy on a little bit of hyzer, it pops and carries straight forever and then finishes. Or you can really get on it and generate these really nice turnover lines. I mean, it's pretty versatile. It's essentially just a neutral disc, and I can use it in a lot of situations, but I find myself a lot just throwing this on nice easy approach shots, you know, anything inside of like 330, and I just put it, like I said, on a touch bit of hyzer and it goes straight and then just finishes. To wrap it up, we're going to get into the putters here. We'll start with the most stable. This here is just a PA1. This is my most overstable. I can trust it in a headwind. I can trust it in any kind of wind, really. It's going to do the same thing. I can throw this as hard as I can flat, and it's not going to turn over on me at all. It's going to go straight and it's going to finish. I throw a lot of forehand approach shots with putters, so this finds its way getting thrown a lot. I can throw it on an anhyzer and it actually holds and then finishes like this, or you can throw it on a sweepy hyzer and it also hyzers. So this is my approach for a stable situation that I can trust in any wind. This is the PA1. And my last thrower is a 300 series PA1. This is essentially neutral. I put it on just a touch bit of hyzer and it finishes straight. And this is what I use off the box when I basically need a straight shot or a baby turnover. And it's not quite in the mid-range range, but these also fly very far. One of the great things I found since I switched to Prodigy, I never used to throw putters off the box. But with these molds, for some reason, I feel like they hold torque better. They hold a lot more power better. So for me, they're holding up better, and I can really throw them with spin and throw them hard like they should, and they're carrying out even farther than I had with other putters before. So this is my neutral PA1, and I can throw all kinds of shots with it. Essentially just anything straight to a slight baby turnover. And then to finish up with, I'm putting the 350 series PA3s. I used to putt the Wizard before. I really didn't have too much of a trouble switching. The only difference is these produce a little less glide, but yet they're a little more dependable in the wind, I found. They have a little bit lower profile, the build is a little differently, and I just feel like they cut the wind really well. Like in a headwind, I can put them on just a touch baby bit of hyzer, and they go straight, and they carry up straight into the basket and finish, and they're very dependable. I'm putting this SE 350 series, and then my best friend Kyle Webster, who I have to credit for getting me on the team, he has his own stamp PA3 here, and they're both my go-to money putters. I'm toting the grip bag today, but soon enough I'll have my Prodigy bag, and I'm looking forward to it. And that's my in the bag. Thank you very much.